Hi, welcome to Sonny's the Car Wash Factory. In this video, Car Wash Financial Information, we're going to go over one of the most important tasks for a new investor getting into the car wash business: how to analyze the projected cash flow for your proposed location. You'll learn how to determine if your site format, location, and equipment package capacity fits your investment objectives.
Cash flow projections are extremely important to the bank and also working with the CPA who helps prepare those. And a lot of times it's important because I need to understand what the assumptions are that were behind those cash flow projections. As a good banker and somebody who's on the ground as a relationship manager, I'm going to spend the time with the client to understand quarter by quarter, every 6 months, exactly how they're fitting in regards to those projections. So they're very important for us to understand cash flow, number one, and understand, are we behind or ahead of where we thought we were going to be? My opportunities with somebody like that is to clearly understand what the competition is going to be, the location is going to be, understand exactly what their pricing is going to be, and understand how they're going to operate. There's a lot of holes out there, and I find them all the time with people and say, well, why don't you extend your hours past a normal 5 o'clock cutoff time? And they'll say, wow, we never thought about that. All their competition's shutting down and they're still operating, somebody else is operating until 7 o'clock, they're picking up another $100,000 a year. Well, that's pretty much their net profit. So there's a lot of things that we look at as bankers that some people typically don't, think about, and we can go to them and say that. The other thing that I would tell you is find a bank that has done it before, find a banker who has an interest in helping you, and find a banker that's actually done a project like that before, and that's by talking to other people inside the industry.
There's a lot of information out there: associations, consultants, and manufacturers, and they're all good resources. There are also a lot of variables, ranging from the weather, your personal ability to manage and market your business. Unfortunately, not everything can be plugged into a spreadsheet to tell you exactly when you'll break even. Ultimately, it's up to you, the owner-operator, who has to decide if the numbers make sense. That being said, let's take a look at a few places where you can get the information you need to get started. The first step in getting prepared for a car wash pro forma is to really do some homework and visit as many sites as you possibly can to determine what type of car wash you want to build, how big a car wash you want to build, what different types of profit percentage you may have on it. And we're going to use that information further down in the pro forma. But the biggest part is to first find out, can we afford a piece of land in the neighborhood and the area that we want to build a car wash in. So once you know what type of car wash you want to build, you have an idea, you visited some sites, you need a half acre, an acre, 2 acres, then you're going to go out and search for some land. And the first part of the pro forma is to determine what it's going to cost you to do this. So if you go out there and you search for your land and you come out that you find a piece of property, let's call it an acre piece of property, and that acre may be for sale for in the neighborhood of $750,000, that's going to be our starting point. And on our pro forma, we'll have a section that'll be an acquisition budget, and you're going to fill in the blanks, and you're going to start with your land costs. Once your land cost goes in there, you're going to have that settled down in your statement. The next line item on there is building. What's it going to cost to build a building in your part of the country? Do we need an insulated roof? Do we need windows? Do we need doors? Do we need a all-block building? Do we need floor heat? What's that going to cost? Do some research, call some builders, show them some pictures, try to get some estimates, talk to people that have already done this before. Put your building cost on there. We're going to use $800,000 for the building we're going to build in this site. The next is, and don't be fooled by what the site looks like with landscaping and trees on it if it's a raw piece of land, is the site going to need some site work? And don't be afraid to overestimate here. A site may look level, but when you get there, you may be in a floodplain, you may have to elevate the property, you may have to bring in some fill or build a retention pond. This site here we're talking about, we're actually buying a site that's 2 acres. If it's a 2-acre site, because we got to add retention because we're in a floodplain, so we're estimating in the neighborhood of $250,000 for actual site work to get the site ready to build that car wash on. Soft costs. This can range from anything from architect, legal fees, permitting costs, water impact fees, sewer, and don't guess here. Go to the municipalities, find out what it costs for a 2-inch water main, find out if there's a sewer on the street, what the sewer tap might be. Is it low enough? If you can talk to some people, look at some old plans. Do we need a lift station on the site? Estimate that out. Here we're going to use a number of $150,000 for soft costs. Then your equipment. Look at the package. You've done your homework. Do some research. Make sure you've got enough equipment to clean cars properly so that you're only doing the additional services required. If it's a flex or full, or if it's an exterior car wash, enough equipment that you need a clean, dry, shiny car at the end of that tunnel. Here we'll estimate $550,000 for equipment. That'll bring us to a total project cost of about $2.5 million. From there, we need to know, one, if we're going to get financing, how much money do we need to put down to get financing? If we're better capitalized, can we put more money down and borrow less money so that we have a lower debt service as we operate the site? Or we're going to hold some cash back for startup and operating capital. But this is the first step. So on this one here, we'll talk about the numbers we're going to put down. $2.5 million all in to build the site and get it ready to go. We're going to have owner investment of 20%. That's going to be $500,000. We're going to finance $2 million. The next thing is call your bank. You're going to use SBA lending, you're going to use conventional financing, venture capital. How are you going to do it? And what's that money going to cost? Because later on in the pro forma, we're going to fill in the blanks. We're going to have to put in a space for debt service. And if we have a $2 million loan, we're going to look at that interest rate that's available on that money today. On this one here, for purposes of this one, at the time that we were working the pro forma, that interest rate is, it was an SBA loan, so it was 1.5 over prime. So we're looking at 9.75%, or on the $2 million for 20 years, we've got a debt service payment monthly of $18,970. And we're going to use that number in our pro forma as we go to figure out what our break even is and what our cash flow projection will be based on our potential volume capture rate. Okay? So that covers our bank and our acquisition budget and our banking and funding. And the next step we need from there is to go to the type of car wash we want to build. Once we found our piece of land, our next section is to again agree on that property and based on the demographics, how we're going to run the car wash. We're going to do a full serve, flex serve, express model. And when we agree to what we're going to do there, we're going to determine, because we're in a retail area, residential area, what are our hours of operation going to be. From the hours of operation, this one here we're talking about is an express car wash. We're talking about being open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 at night. So we'll fill in our pro forma with 12 hours a day or 84 hours a week of open operating time. From that number, we're going to determine what we need for a crew, so we can determine what our labor expense will be on a monthly basis. So we're going to look at it and say, okay, if we have a manager, an assistant manager, and then hourly personnel, how are we going to break that up? In this model here, we're using one manager, one assistant manager, and then probably a combination between 3 to 5 full and part-time employees to run the site. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it might run with one person with some overlap hours. And then as we get towards the weekend, when it gets busier, we'll add another person to open, maybe another one to close. And then there's always be 5 days a week, there'll be a manager, an assistant manager, and 3 days they may overlap to do some banking or some repairs, service, and cleaning work. So if we do that correctly, we'll come up with 40 hours each for the manager and the assistant manager, and then 112 hours approximately for our line labor. We're going to take those numbers and plug them into our pro forma with some labor rates. Manager may be at $25 an hour labor rate. Our assistant manager might be at $10 an hour labor rate, or $9. And then our shift personnel, anywhere from minimum wage up to $6 or $8. And we'll put them in, on this one here, we have them at $7.50. To get accurate, you're gonna have to pay workman's comp, Social Security, unemployment tax. So we're gonna burden those rates by 20%. That way there we get an actual true all-in labor cost. Don't be fooled by thinking that it's just minimum wage. You've got a lot of other expenses to go with it. So that being said, we've got some numbers here that we've jacked these up on our pro forma by 20%, so that when we plug them in to the pro forma, we'll get an actual labor cost all in. Okay? After the labor, you got to decide your car wash pricing, because car wash pricing is going to affect